Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Triplet Double podcast. Last week was fun. We had Todd on, talked about IUI. This week, I'm excited to have another triplet father out of Rhode Island. Give it up for Steve. What's up, Steve?
How you doing, man? How's it going?
It's going good, bro. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. It was great to have our first intro call and kind of learn more about you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really give it up to you for doing this for triplet dads and guys that are expecting, guys that are in it.
Yeah,
It's definitely a nice little network to kind of be a part of and understand that there's a lot of us out there. We're all going through it. We're all at different stages and whatever
for
we
sure.
can learn from each other, at any point and share stories and realize that, there's definitely a lot of, new ground, but there's a lot of commonality. There's a lot you can learn from guys that have already done it and are going through it with you,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it was a great network having the Triplet Dad Facebook page because really, like we said, we were able to get the dads together and really talk about everyone's experience and journey and all that. And now I'm excited. In a couple weeks, we'll see how soon it happens, but I will get some moms on here and, we'll get everyone's perspective, their journeys. And we know the moms they got the bulk of the work here, right? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Definitely. I
We're the
mean,
supportive partners and we're the dads, and then but we're not the ones who have to hold all three and deliver all three. Like
oh
that's a mission in itself.
man, whatever we can do to keep them comfortable, right? It's
Yeah, exactly.
that doesn't end after birth. You got to do what you
You
can to make sure they're
spot on,
comfortable. My
spot
my
on.
wife
Well,
was actually the one who told me about the groups that she was in while we were,
okay,
going through it, and that's what kind of led me to the group that I'm in. And I was reluctant at first, but it's been quite a
yeah,
lifeline, that Facebook group.
yeah. It's been great, honestly. Yeah, like I think I mentioned this before in a previous episode. I think everyone who's if you have multiples, twins, triplets, and more, definitely find groups online. There's plenty out there. There's not like an overwhelming amount, but the ones that there are of, they're supportive. Like they're pretty active. You know what I mean? It's very unique. So definitely recommend that. Okay, I think not just I know a little bit about it, but I would like to know more, and I think everyone listening would also like to hear about your guys' journey because this is an interesting one. I think there's different milestones. We all track as parents of multiple, especially when you're going through a high risk of a triplet pregnancy. You're definitely tracking the weeks, the see where how far we're getting, and what the I'm sure the doctor is communicating with you as well, like ours did about like, hey, you guys make it to past 22 weeks. Here's what it looks like. 24 weeks. Here's what it looks like, etc. Now, your guys' journey, I'm not going to spoil it. I want you to be able to share this, but I would like for you to walk us through from the beginning of when you guys found out, like what that process was, and then share with us about the actual pregnancy, how that journey was.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny story. We're just getting through COVID. My wife and I were trying. We had some, some a tough journey before. So we were definitely, this is something we wanted. And we both knew we were physically capable of it. There was nothing in our way that in that sense. And you know, we had a at-home pregnancy test that came up positive. We were super excited about it. Um, and it was. I work in restaurants, and I'm constantly at work if I'm not home. And she had her ultrasound, and at the time during COVID, I was
Mm-hmm.
still able to work, and they didn't really allow anybody else other than her in the office anyways. So
I remember
um,
that. This was how old are the triplets? How long ago was this, Steve?
they're about 4.5. They were born in July of 21. So we
Okay,
were, yeah, so it was like somewhere in the winter of 20.
that you
So
guys
it's
found
like,
out.
yeah, so
Yeah.
she went in for the ultrasound by herself. And
And I remember that because I had the same thing. My oldest was 2021
yeah.
March, and I couldn't go to any of the ultrasounds.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
can imagine with this pregnancy how, like, stressful that can be, not being able to physically be there for that.
Yeah. No, it was definitely, it was like I remember it being like the last appointment on like a middle day of the week, could have been like a Tuesday or Wednesday. And she was able to get there because she was still working. So she went after, after work, and then she, you know, came home with the test, came home with the paperwork from it. Um, and I guess the ultrasound tech like wasn't the most personable person. She wasn't like really
Hmm.
talking to her throughout the throughout the process. She was just like, "Yep, congratulations, you're pregnant. Here's your paperwork." So my wife brings the paperwork home, and she's looking at it, and she's reading, embryo A, embryo B, embryo C. But she was like, "Steven, I don't know about this. I think there's three." And I'm like, "Wait a sec, no way." You know what I mean? Because we weren't, we didn't do any type of IVF or anything like that. We weren't, this wasn't even on our radar. We don't have twins in our
No,
family, or
multiples, yeah,
yeah,
in the
nothing
family.
to speak
Hmm.
of. So I'm like, they mixed up your paperwork. I'm calling first thing in the morning, and we'll get
Yeah,
this ironed out. You got the wrong paperwork.
fascinating.
Um, yeah, so sure enough, I called the doctors the next day, and they're like, "Nope, you're congratulations, Mr. Anamorati, you're having triplets." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean I'm having
Yeah.
triplets? Like, how is that even possible? Like, what are you talking about? Three of them? Like, no
You guys
way."
went in for one. You guys went in
Yeah,
for one, and you got the
yeah, dude.
yeah, you got
Oh
these
my
extras.
god. Yeah, no, so I was just like,
Jeez.
okay, thank you. And now we're Googling
Yeah.
everything possible, and it is
My
possible.
gosh.
And unlike twins, it's not necessarily a genetic trait, and
Yeah.
all this stuff. So I'm like, oh, all right, we're in. And then as soon as she gets a hold of her doctors, and they're like, yeah, Jenny, you're having triplets. This is a high risk pregnancy. We are going to need
Hmm.
to, see you quite frequently, and let your, just be ready, because we're going to have to see you probably 2 or 3 times a month.
Did they talk? Did they get with you guys? Sorry, did they get with you?
No,
When did the doctor follow? When did you guys follow? When did, like, the actual conversation with that doctor happen? Like, was it like a week after,
uh,
2 weeks after, or
I want to say that following Monday, she was
following
able to
Monday?
get a
Okay,
hold of her primary care,
gotcha.
and now it was like, we had to find, we were living in Boston at the time,
Yeah.
thankfully, the hospitals in Massachusetts, and especially Boston, I'm very familiar with them, and they're like, I'm very comfortable with them.
Hmm.
Um, and now it's just we're on search for like the doctor that can handle this, because they're not just like everywhere. It's like not like every delivery
No, they're
room can
not.
deliver
They're not.
triplets,
Right.
and that was something
Right.
I didn't like. Now it's just opening up our world to like, okay, like this isn't just a pregnancy here. Like this is like
Yes.
she's at risk, they're at risk.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's figure out what's going on here. And where we're still not able to be at um appointments together.
Together,
Now
yeah.
it's
You still
like,
can't go with her, really.
right, right. So I'm just taking like, she's getting a little bit from her doctor. Like, well, she's getting the information, and then we're bringing it home, and we're googling everything we can, and all this, and now we're
Wow.
finding out that they're identical, and they're all in the same sack, and it's all this like. Now
Wow.
we're hitting this rarity of triplets, where we were, not to go backwards, but we were excited because, ideally, um, we always wanted two kids, boy and a
Yes.
girl.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, triplets, we'll get two, and, two of one and one of the other. Like,
Yeah.
all right, let's get behind this now. Let's get over being
Right.
scared, and let's,
You get that
really.
excitement. You make the jokes, right? I mean, I don't know when you told your families, but I don't know. Did you tell them right away?
So no, we waited because there is that period of like with any pregnancy, you want to make sure you're healthy,
Yes.
and things are going well before you start telling everybody.
Yes.
Um, and I've had a complicated medical history as a, when I was a kid, I
Oh,
had
okay.
cancer myself, and I had done some radiation as a young kid. So my family was kind of always
Wow.
expecting me not to be able to. Yeah, I had thyroid cancer as a, 10 or 11-year-old, and I did very minimal
Chemo
radiation. It was just like
or radio? Okay.
yeah, like an iodine treatment, that
Gotcha.
kills
Yeah. I'm
cancer
familiar.
cells.
I'm familiar. My mom had gone through it a couple times with her cancer, and so I remember the treatments. Like, you know what I mean. So, but anyways, I had no idea. Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
and that was something I dealt when I was real. That's what I mean by my
Yes.
familiarity with hospitals.
Yes.
Like, I can understand,
Makes
there's
sense.
conversations doctors have with you, and you can kind of read the room a little bit. But we ended up settling, not to go back too far, but we ended up finding a doctor at Boston Medical Center, not Boston, excuse me, Beth Israel,
Hmm.
that specialized in births and multiples.
Okay.
Um, and she was great. And, she let us, we finally were able to meet with her together, and she kind of gave us like, okay, we're far enough along. You can start telling people, I hope you didn't, I remember saying this, like, I hope you didn't bank on a boy and a girl or two boys and a girl on this because, or, either way, because,
Yeah.
they're mono, they're all identical. They're going to be the same
All the same
gender.
sex. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're like,
Yeah.
okay, like now, as a guy, my head's like boys. And, finally I went home and I told my folks, and I laid it to them. I was like, guys, I just want you to know, and like I kind of set the stage for. I was like, hey, let's go grab dinner, or like we're
Yes.
coming over for dinner, and just by that, like that set some alarms off in my parents' head, like we had an announcement to make because I never
Something's
did
going
that.
on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How many weeks were you guys when you decided to tell your parents?
maybe like 10 or 12 at this point. I mean,
Yes.
she's not
Okay.
she's got a little bit, going on. Her appetite's up and all that,
Yeah.
and a little rosy in the face, and she's not drinking or anything like that. So all the signs are there if you're paying attention to her. But my parents, probably saw her maybe, once every couple of weeks. So
Okay.
they would need the announcement to really, be able to, before they would
To
ask any
clock it, to like
questions.
figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I said, guys, Jenny and Jenny's pregnant. And my father was like, oh, congratulations. My mother was like, oh my, she was all excited. And I didn't know how they were going to take it at first. And then I was like, all right, well, you guys, swallowed that pill pretty good. There's three of them. We're having triplets, and my father
Yeah.
like hit the roof. He was like, "What? How is that even? The same like,
Wow.
how is that even possible? How is that possible? Everyone's asking who has twins, and I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Like this is
Yeah, it
not
does.
the
It doesn't. For
same
everyone
deal.
listening, it doesn't work that way. It is all
Yeah,
determined by the mom. The mom side determines it, not the dad. The dad has nothing to do with it, apparently. So it's all the mom side. Interesting.
yeah. So then we explained the mono tri aspect of it and how they're all identical and they're this year and say the same sack, which now on the other side, on the medical side, makes it more of a high risk, right? They're all kind of depending on each other, and they're all
Hmm.
very crammed in there. As
Yeah.
you know, even more so than it would, normal triplet pregnancy. And then you're reading all the statistics on it and how rare it is, and it's just like this lightning bolt. You know what I mean? It's just like it's almost like you're picked at that point. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
not to get religious about it, but it's one of those like he only gives you what you can handle type of stuff. Like it was
Yes.
just one of those moments where it's like all right, let's take this on. Um, and now all the baby shower things start to be planned. We want to do a reveal.
Hmm.
Um, and I have a very close friend of mine that I grew up with, and I'm a big golf fanatic, so um we had this golf ball that was filled with the powder. If you follow me on Instagram at Adamarati, you'll see the reveal on there, and we
Cool.
got
I'll
the
put that in the
Boston.
show notes. I'll put that in the
Yeah,
show
yeah.
notes. Yeah.
We have like the Boston skyline in the back, and my buddy had this golf ball for about a week before I knew it. He's breaking my balls, no pun intended, saying like, "Hey, dude, get the skirts ready." I don't know.
Get the
You're
skirts
gonna be,
ready.
yeah, like you're gonna be, teaching. I hope they make the WNBA, like all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's
that was
funny.
kind of telling me like that, like, okay, they might be boys because if he's going at
If
me this
he's
time this way,
yeah, okay,
maybe.
okay.
But he's a
He
he's a
knew.
funny dude, so like he would do that and it would be good. So I really was
Yeah,
on my toes,
that's
and
funny.
and you know and either way, just healthy and happy is the goal on everything. So
Well
I
said.
you
Well
know
said.
but we lined up the tee shot right in front of the skyline of Boston, and my driver was, and I never hit a ball so sweet. It's like all of a sudden the blue powder comes up, and I'm like, damn, like I let out and like almost to I don't even know how to say it, but like I let out a gasp, I let out a
Now
yell
I
that
gotta
was just
watch
like,
this video.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
I yeah, I
it's
gotta
almost
watch this.
insulting, like, and like you see those videos now where the guys are pissed that they have a girl, and
Oh yeah.
I was practicing if it was a girl to like not be like, don't have that
Not to
face.
be a yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, don't
Ooh.
bring down your wife. Like, she'll be excited if it's girls. Be excited.
Yeah.
But like, when I saw the blue powder come out of that golf ball, I was like, yeah, like you thought I was Tiger Woods, man. Like I let it go. And and yeah, I was like, like there was people, like it was at a soccer field, so people are clapping, people are congratulating us, and no one has an idea that it's triplets, so it's just like,
Yeah.
and
They see a regular gender reveal and they're like, "Okay, cool,
yeah,
he's having a
yeah,
boy."
yeah, right, congratulations, and and that's something you and I talked about in that pre-interview. When people find out that you're having triplets, especially in a town like Boston, you can get a lot of mixed,
Oh, I bet. I'm sure
mixed
there's no
reactions.
I'm sure the filter is like little to none in a city
Oh
like Boston,
man,
huh? Yeah, people
it's
will say
like
whatever they want.
that's right. And I mean, while you're pregnant, you don't get too many, but once
Yes,
you
you
start
yes.
rolling up with the triplet stroller, you get,
Yep.
some, I'll tell you, and I love Boston. I grew up in Boston. Walking through a mall with a triplet stroller, you get a lot of mixed reviews, and
Yeah, very well. Yeah.
well, I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But now, so
That's
now the
funny.
reveal's out there. We're having boys. We're in the hospital every week or so. Uh,
Is this around the gender reveals around what how many weeks did you guys
so
do that
now
gender
we're
reveal?
at like I want to say between 16 and 18.
Okay, okay.
Um, and I'm sure my wife will correct me once she hears this.
And
But
you're being seen every week or every other week?
every other week at this point.
Okay. All right.
And then once she starts feeling the way she's feeling, or she feels like, now we had some complications with past pregnancies, so we were definitely like, anything that feels weird, we're going. We're not
Yes.
taking
Okay.
a chance. Anything that, like, if my wife or if her stomach feels weird at any point, we're not hesitating. We're going.
Just gonna
We're
go in.
calling it
Yeah.
on the way. We're not playing around with anything.
Mhm.
So now we're getting 22, 24, and the doctors are kind of letting her know. Her doctor's letting her know, like, ideally we're trying to get to, 28 to 30 weeks. That's our ideal time for. I mean, anything over 30 weeks, and we're really in a good spot.
Yep.
Let's That's our goal. Um, so we're getting close to, now we're getting, 24 weeks, 25 weeks. She's not working at all. She's home. She's not on bed rest yet, and she was pretty active. I mean, she worked. My wife is a trooper. She was working at you know, she was working at a restaurant herself. She was doing some things as far as, working at a pharmacy part time as well. So
Hmm.
she was, we were really hustling, and
She was active. Yeah, you guys were active. You guys weren't chill. Like, yeah,
yeah,
she was
we
like
weren't
chilling,
kind of waiting
relaxing.
for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's
you know,
good.
we luckily we ended up moving back into my parents' house, and we started setting up the nursery. We started doing some rooms over to make space for us because we knew we were going to need help right off the bat. And
Yeah.
plus, we're starting to save for a house. So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise that things were kind of working out the way they were working.
Hmm.
And by this time, COVID had kind of broke. And now it's like, all right, everyone's kind of getting back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
Um, I'm able to go to all the appointments. And then, I'm setting up at work, hey, and again, now my buddy that held onto the golf ball is also the owner of the restaurant that I was working at. So we're really tight. And he's also the godfather of one of the boys. So,
Oh, cool.
uh, yeah, really, really great guy, really close friend of mine. Um, if anybody's ever in Boston, stop by Pots on Porter. It's an unbelievable Italian restaurant.
Nice.
But anyways, sorry, I had to plug that. But
You gotta plug it. You gotta plug in the spots. Totally.
no, but I mean, I was the chef there at the time, so
Oh,
that's
cool.
yeah. So it's intense work, and we had the contingency plan. Like if I get the call, this guy's sliding in, and I'm taking a couple a month or so, a couple of months here to really do this the right way,
Yeah.
and you know um when you're trying to get all your ducks in a row, and the nursery's coming together, and you're building all the cribs, and everyone's pitching in, and I'm very fortunate. Her family, my family, like everyone was kind of ready for this to happen. And then she's like, something doesn't feel right. I'm in a ton of pain. Like she's getting all red and all that. So I was all right. Let's go. We take her. My sister was home at the time. She takes her to the emergency room at Beth Israel. They take her in. They're doing they immediately all the ultrasounds, all the the heart monitors are on each baby and all that. She did have a little discharge, so we're like, okay, how you know this might be happening right now. So I
Yeah.
leave
And
work.
what? How many weeks are we at?
We're at 26, maybe 25 and a half.
Okay.
Um, so now, um, so now she's in there, and they confirmed that one of them had broken the sac. Now, with and please correct me if I'm wrong, but with fraternal, where they all have their own sac, you can
Hmm.
just kind of monitor one and take one without hurting the other two or something like that's my understanding with it. But when they're identical and they're all in the same sac, once that
Hmm.
one breaks, now they're all on the clock,
I
right? They're all
don't. I don't know the exact medical like what the right term would be, or that how accurate that is. I do know there was. I'm trying to remember from our experience because we were at, and then we're going to continue where you left off, but just to go to that point really quick, there was in our experience, we had one that had severe growth restriction that we had to constantly be monitored from like 18 weeks, 18 weeks on or 16 weeks on.
yeah.
And as we were going through those milestones, like through Kaiser, they had told us like, look, there's the top parentologist here in LA. And when we had gotten our second opinion through him about what to do, he had said, hey, there's this guy that does basically, there's only a few of them in the country. There's one in California, there's one in Texas, and there's one, I think, somewhere on the East Coast. Like, there's only three of these people that
Oh
can do
man,
these specific laser surgeries to, you know,
remove
honestly
one.
just remove, and and it's dark because like it's like basically like almost like reductions the only thing you can do at that point. But again, everyone listening, we don't know the exact, we're not the professionals, we're not the doctors,
Yeah.
but regardless, obviously there was something key, happening here at these weeks where Steve's talking about. So, anyways, continue your story.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I mean, so now you're just heavily monitored.
Mm-hmm.
Once that one broke, now there's other things that come into play, right? Like the discharge or whatever, like going into my being infected, or now they're monitoring her as much as they're monitoring the boys.
Okay.
And they wheel her up to, she's there. They're like, listen, you're not going until it happens. We're gonna hold on for the baby's sake as
As long as
long as
possible.
possible, so they are ready to come out. They're like, we're hanging on here. We're not gonna
Mhm.
just deliver them, at this week, because
Wow.
it's uncomfortable. So they're like, you're gonna be uncomfortable for a little bit. And then now, the visiting hours they were still under these guidelines where I couldn't stay there the whole time. Like, I still,
Mhm.
me, even the father, like, had to go
Yeah.
home at, certain points. Like, they weren't allowing me to be there all day, all night. Um, so, she goes up to a room. I stay with her as long as possible until they kick me out, and they were great. I was able to, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just being able to come back and forth. And I live in Revere, which is a very close proximity to Boston, so
Okay.
it wasn't the end of the world for me to be like, all right, hey, I'm gonna go home, shower up, check in at work, and then come back, type of thing. So we had she had a great group of nurses there checking on her. And now it's every little thing, and the monitors are, like I said, they're on each one of the baby's hearts. And again, my wife is incredibly uncomfortable.
I
Um,
can only imagine, right?
yeah, so it's like, as soon as one of those monitors falls off of the heartbeat, like, there's an alarm going off. And
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yes, Elizabeth had to go.
yeah,
My wife had
so
to go
like,
through that too, yeah.
so it's like, it's not easy tracking, and now the babies are moving too. So it's like,
Mhm.
everybody's uncomfortable. Like, it's just
Yeah, they're
no
kicking and
one.
stuff, yep.
Yeah, it's been long enough. And so now we're getting close past 26 weeks. We're coming up on 27, and the doctor said, 27 is possible. It's better than 26. It's not as good as 28, but we should safely be able to do this, at 27 weeks.
Wow.
Um, and you know, again, my wife's holding on as long as she can, but now she's starting to feel some symptoms now. She's feeling some dizziness, feeling some shortness of breath, and she has asthma as it is. So, like, the
Mhm.
shortness of breath, they were kind of like, you have asthma, like, make sure you're, taking your puffer, or your asthma stuff and
Inhaler.
all that.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, inhaler, there you go, thank you. And and uh and they're kind of like brushing it off, and she's like, no, this is different. Like, my heart rate's through the roof. Like, I don't feel well. I'm feeling sick. And for everybody that's listening, um, and every nurse will tell you this, and every NICU nurse or whoever it is, like, you're your best advocate. Like, you're for your kids, for yourself. Like, when something doesn't feel right, and, like, push for it, because the doctors have their idealities and all that, like, how they want to do things. But it's like, look, I don't feel right, and it took one nurse to be like, hey guys, she's not doing good. Like, she might, like, her test might check out, but Jenny's, like, in a lot of pain. Like, her heart rate is, like, super high. Like, she might be feeling some of, side effects of some
Yeah, but it's
preeclampsia.
it's ramping up, and she's got to put some eyes on it. And I do think, like, look, I think that it's well said. I think you are 100% right. You're gonna be your best advocate. I think the doctors mean well, and they're doing their job. I think, for them, I believe from, and I want to believe for the most part they're all doing their best. But to be fair, you, like you said, spot on. I think, and we talked about this with Todd last week. He had said, he had challenging the doctors without, like, being
Yeah, you don't
disrespectful.
be
Without,
rude
yeah,
about it.
you're not
This
being
isn't
rude,
John
but
Q,
yeah,
but
just be comfortable to speak up. You got to be able to speak up, 100%.
yeah,
So I'm glad you said that.
yeah, no, it's so true. And and again, my past history, sometimes you gotta tell them, like, hey, look at that again.
Yeah, yeah,
And one
fair.
nurse, took her word for it, and went to the doctors and really, went to bat for her, and they were like, okay, all right, you're right. Some of these tests are a little bit higher than we'd like them. We're gonna keep our monitor on the babies, and we're gonna do this. And then that's when I got the call. And I'm at work, tossing
Mhm.
chicken parms around,
Chicken parms.
and uh, and I'm like, I got the call, and I'm like, hey guys, that's it. I rang the bell, let everybody know I'm out.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm flying through the tunnel trying to get to Boston and trying to find a parking spot and all that, and I'm rushing, I'm rushing, and the doctor stops me and she's like, "Look, you made it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do it tonight. But because your
Wow.
wife had to have Cheez-Its, we have to wait another 4 hours." So
Oh.
because because my wife ate a bag of Cheez-Its at like before they made this call,
Yeah.
we had to wait another 4 hours because they're like, look, we can't play with this. If she,
Yeah.
gets sick during pregnancy or something where something gets caught in the wrong place, it'll complicate things very badly. We need to make sure, those Cheez-Its are in the right spot in her digestive
Is so
tract here.
I gotta make sure you're telling the truth, right? This isn't sponsored by Cheez-Its. You're not trying to get a Cheez-It sponsorship.
No, hey, man,
No, I'm just kidding.
Nabisco, reach out. No, but no, but I swear to God, on my life, we had to wait, and I mean that was the
Wow.
longest 4 hours. I mean, we're going from because now the epidural has to wait, like everything has to wait, like
Yeah, there's a whole process to it. Yep.
that's right, and there's a process even if you're not, waiting
Mhm.
out a snack. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
a there's a whole thing to it. So now I'm pacing along, I'm just like freaking out, and she's like doing everything she can to kind of just pass the time. Now we're setting the mood, right? We're playing the right music, we're drawing the shades, we're trying to like, we're taking I'm taking deep breaths. I'm a
Yeah.
warrior, you know what I mean? I'm someone that like when something's going on, I gotta know, I gotta like I can't sit still. So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
I'm pacing around and finally, now it's like, okay, we're gonna bring her into the room. Do you want the curtain up or down? Um and I'm like, I really don't want to see much here, but now we have to wait for the epidural to set in. Uh, and it's like so for anybody, that's, been in a delivery room, it's a fairly, intimate process, right? There's a few doctors, there's the doctor, there's their team. But with triplets, it's like the whole roster's in the
It's a
room,
big
right?
deal. Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
big deal.
you
There's
know what I
like 20
mean?
people, 20 people in that delivery room.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's a team for each baby, there's an incubator for each baby, and there's a doctor for you making sure you're good. There's a doctor for her on that side, the anesthesiologist, like everyone's just it is intense. And they were a C-section obviously, and it was that curtain was up for as long as possible. I really didn't want to see anything. The doctor even said to me, they're like, "Hey, do you want to like pull out your phone and take some video of this? Like you're a dad now. Like like we're hearing the babies come out and
Yeah.
they're all crying, which is a good sign." And you know, um, and I'm like, "No, I don't want to see." I'm like trying to live in the moment. I'm trying to be there for her.
Right.
Um, and because I'm not the type of guy that just pulls out my phone, for
Just
every
start
little
recording.
thing.
Yeah.
I
No,
want to be
yeah.
be in the moment,
Yep.
and yeah, so I started peeking my head around, and I start seeing my boys go into each little incubator, and I'm cutting the cords, and it's just like, wow, this is like, whoa, like we're here now, like okay, they're out, like this is insane, and
Wow.
they're bringing the babies to they're like, "Jane, do you wanna see all of them? Do you like?" And she's just, like, gone through such, like, that process, like, I don't even know. I can't even, like, not even a second of me can imagine, like, having like half your body on a table and then like then putting it all back in. Not to get too graphic about it,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Um, and they brought the funniest thing was they brought they all the dogs brought all three of them to her at the same time so she can see him, and she's like, "I'm about to get sick." So like she was like, she's battling through it. All the boys go back in their in their incubators, and now we're off to um now we're off to the recovery room, and they're not allowing her any water or any ice or anything like that in case she gets sick again.
Yeah.
um, and she's doing everything she can to get ice chips or anything, and they're not budging on that rule. And she said, now she's still under, she's still, now she's under some pain medication after the fact, and she's a little out of it. So she's saying some funny stuff to the doctors, and we're just recovering. Um, and now they give us a room, a couple of two room numbers because they couldn't fit. They didn't have a room big enough for all three, so they gave us two room numbers um, in the NICU. Um, the weights were pretty close, but we had one. Steven, who broke his sack early, was under that threshold of like 2.2 pounds or 2.3 pounds, to where he was still at like some high risk. They were really monitoring him. The
Mhm.
other two came in at like 2.5 and 2.6. So it was only like 9 pounds total. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like they were these big babies. And again, they only made it to 27 weeks. So like they
Yeah.
didn't really have that time to get,
Yes.
as big as they could get.
The most growth happens in that last trimester.
Yeah.
That last trimester is where like they really like double in size almost. You know what I mean? Like they really hit that. But so it makes sense. Like at 27 weeks, you're talking about 2 pounders here, which is
Yeah.
it's a
I mean,
fragile baby, very fragile.
yeah, I mean, your palm of your hand type of thing, and they
Yes.
were pretty long for the most part. And not to backtrack, but some ultrasounds was kind of funny how they were in there together, because like you got one that's like got his face and the other one's butt, and the other
Yeah.
they're all just crammed in there. So it's like, what a relief to get out of there for them.
Yep.
Um, so now they're in their little things, and you know uh funny enough, Vincenzo and Alessio. So it's Stephen, Vincenzo, and Alessio. Stephen the third, Vincenzo was second, and Alessio 11-10, 11-11, and 11-12. Um, and on July 23rd, and it's true. Your life just changes right after that, right? I mean, it's just like they were our first kids. They were
Yeah.
never. It wasn't like I'd been through anything like this before. And it's just all the like me as a dad now, you know, I I thought I was gonna have this big emotional moment. Like I thought I was gonna be like crying my eyes out, but it was just like, I kicked into this like gear of like, okay, who are the nurses? Who are the doctors? Where are we at now? Like, all right, it's
Yeah.
go time. It
Let's do this.
immediately
Yeah.
kicked in. It immediately kicked in for me in like a paternal way, and scared as all hell. But I have I have great parents, and I have great family around me. So and again, they weren't really allowed in there either yet. So there's still some
Makes
COVID
sense. Yeah.
situation,
COVID. Yep.
still some COVID stuff going on there, where like maybe per only two visitors at a time, and this ended up becoming an issue because it was only so like that for first couple days, nobody, right? Nobody comes up, just me, right? So now I'm doing my thing. I'm we're doing some of the chest to chest, and some of those holding. I'm sure I skipped a couple of parts here, but like we both got to see him that night, obviously, or the next, after she came out of recovery. We got acclimated to where the rooms were and where
Hmm.
she would be staying as opposed to them. They discharged her fairly quickly. Um, she was discharged maybe a day or two after.
Oh
Um,
wow. So she recovered. She recovered pretty quickly. Good.
Yeah,
right?
well, it
Okay.
was obvious that it was the boys that were giving that much strain on her body. Like
Yeah,
she
makes sense.
brightened up after her color came back
Yeah.
to her normal tone. Once she was able to eat and drink and have a glass of wine, like that, those
Mhm.
types of things. Um, and just kind of get back to herself, take like a good shower. I mean, she lost about 20 or 30 pounds in a matter of a couple of days.
Yeah.
Um, and go home, take a shower in your own shower. And here's where the difference is, where I'm hearing us between the singleton, right? Because like you know this is where like the NICU kind of started to realize like, wait, we're under some special circumstances here. Like they're not coming home with us yet. They
Mhm.
need to be healthy enough to come home. And we need to, we're going to be visiting them as opposed to just like them never leaving our sides from here on out. And that's when like I started to really say like, all right, well let's do this the right way here. Like let's go home, let's shower, let's have dinner, let's let these people at the hospital do their job. And they made it very clear to us like to do that. Like the nurses
It's
at
a yeah, it's important because they're gonna and and let's get into that because I think what you got the delivery and now they're in the hands of the NICU. The best possible situation is like the NICU. The NICU is like they're lifesavers. Yeah, lifesavers. Literally, like they are. Like the
literally,
nurses there are just fantastic. But I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of NICUs are on that. Like they're all pretty consistent that way where they have that messaging of like, hey, you guys need to get your mental health back, your strength back. Because guess what? We're taking care of them right now because obviously they need our help. But you guys need to be ready because once we get them, we're doing everything. They're doing everything in their power to get these babies healthy and home, so you guys can be able to do your job as parents. And let's get into that now. So they're in the NICU. Talk to me about the NICU.
so again, Beth Israel, they're in the NICU, and they want you to be as much a part of the process as you want to be, right? They're like, look, we do rounds at this time, versus shift changes at this time. If you want to be in on the rounds, you can be. There's a lot of information you're not going to understand, a lot of information you're not going to care about until you hear your room number. But you're more than welcome to be a part of that. You can come visit them whenever you want as mother and father. We allow two visitors at a time. Um, and you know, get yourselves right. Make sure they're ready when you're ready for them to come. Make sure you're ready for when they're ready to come home. So we're putting the final touches on things at home. Uh, we're getting rest. We're doing some things that we'd have done before the kid, before she was pregnant.
Hmm.
Um, as far as, getting dinner or getting lunch or whatever it is. But like we got them. But now when we're there, it's a little overstimulating as someone who doesn't work there, right? Because there's bells and whistles going off. There's, every monitor, has a threshold. And once it's over by a number or off by a number, there's an alarm going off. And,
Yeah.
you know, as someone who
Um.
doesn't understand them, I'm freaking out over every alarm. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
hold on 1 second, move them this way. Okay, you're
Yep.
good. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, all right. Well,
Yeah,
and
I remember that. I remember that the first like week, you're like you just hear like beep 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 beep, and then you're like, what's
yeah,
going on? And like two nurses like run over and they're like, it's like hold on,
yeah,
and they just like rotate
it's,
the baby, and
yeah,
that's it.
seriously. They
Yeah,
just move like a quarter of an inch and they're like, oh, that's all it was. And then it's just it's all the milestones from there, right? It's like, okay, when can they start feeding on their own? When can
yes,
when can they start um uh like all these little things that will allow the nurses to know like, okay, we're on the right path. You know what I mean? My antennas are always up for like any little thing that's off, or um any little, oh, they're supposed to be doing that, or like, oh, is that noise right, or like is that nostril is out a little bit, is that okay? And they were on top of things. They didn't let any, alarm go off for any extended period of time. They seemed, refreshed, and they were on their job, 24/7. Excuse me, they were finally able to move them into one room.
Oh, good. How long did that take?
About a week or
Okay.
so, until they got some other babies moved around. Some other babies were discharged, and they were finally able to get them all in the same room. And then they moved them over to a different like wing, which was like this big, like it was like going from a double to a suite in a hotel. Like all of a sudden, there's all these chairs, and we're able to take them all out at the same time and in the same room, and they're
Nice.
really starting to, yeah. And we even got a cool picture of them, two of the boys. So we would hold two and one, like she would hold two at the same time, and I'd hold one, and we'd trade off, you know, and like we got this really cool picture of them like hold like two of the boys, I think it's Vincenzo and Alessio, like holding hands, like even with all the stuff on. So it was just really cool to see, like,
Cool.
even at that age they're starting to interact with each other. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
That bond's there 100%.
they definitely say, like, with multiples, expect there to be, their own little language and their own little thing, but like their bond is like unbreakable, like all three
Mhm.
of them. And like I'm seeing it now. I mean, they're four, and I'm seeing like things that like I'm like, wait a sec, like I want to be in on that joke. Like, what are you guys laughing about? Or
Yeah.
like, what are you guys up to?
That's
And I
funny.
can only imagine that gets stronger as they get older. But
That's what they say. That's what they say. We don't know yet, but, we will soon.
um,
Okay.
so
So
yeah,
you guys got the okay, so that's good. I mean, they're back, they're in their own room, and you hit on this before. Like, these are your first kids, and,
yeah,
that's one, I can imagine how overwhelming that is because it's not the, I think a great way to say it is it's not like it's not the storybook way of having like your guys' pregnancy journey. Like, what I mean, you guys thought you
yeah,
were only getting one, right? And then so, then you think like, okay, I get the one, then I get the bonding time, and we can just give that one child all of like 100% of our time. Well, now you got
yeah.
three. And of course it's just mentally it's going to be
So
exhausting because of that pregnancy journey and all that. But now they're here in the NICU, and you guys are able to like that. I can't just I'm just like thinking about that, like being your first kid. Like mine were not my triplets were not my first. Like we had a little bit of we knew what we were doing because we had two other ones, but still, like like I said before, like nobody, I don't care how many kids you got, you're not going to be ready for three babies at once, whether they're
yeah,
your first or they're your 10th kids. You know what I mean?
and something I always kind of humble myself too is like everybody's situation has challenges, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like the one thing that I can't imagine, like, I can't imagine, like, going, like, a pregnancy 9 months and then, like, after 2 days taking a baby home, or after 3 days taking, like, a newborn baby home, like,
Right.
and that's the major difference here for me was, like, and I still tell my friends that are, like, just having their first baby or their second baby, like, I don't know how you're, like, getting out of the hospital and that baby's in a car seat going home, like, I don't know how you're doing that, like, I had this whole, like, recuperation period between birth and between taking them home, to where I felt like, okay, now I'm solely responsible for this human's
Mm-hmm.
life, like, and that's where the NICU kind of gives, the parents gave me and my wife the break to be like, let's mentally prepare, let's make sure everything's ready for them,
Yes. Yeah.
um let's do everything that we need to do to prepare for them mentally and physically. And, to bring that one step further, going back to them all having to hit their milestones, that car seat check milestone is like the biggest one, right? Like if they can sit in the car seat for more than like an hour or something, or more than a half hour without getting sick or getting, uncomfortable to the point where they can't sit in it anymore. That was kind of like the threshold. Um, and even then they softened the blow where it was like, okay, Vincenzo's ready, you can take him home. And the
Yeah,
other
you get to
two
do
aren't.
one at a time, right? You just get
Yeah,
one
so
at a
like
time to like slowly adapt and figure it out.
yeah. Yeah, and that was even like another like little blessing in disguise where it's like, okay, like we're parents now. Like this boy
Hmm.
is like this our baby is home with us. Yeah, there's two other ones like still, not there yet, but here we go. This little guy's ours. We're gonna put him in his crib. We're gonna get used to, feeding at this time and actually time out. I forgot the biggest thing about the NICU is the schedule they set him on.
I was gonna get there. I was gonna say, I was like,
Like,
now we
how
got
did I
the
forget
because
that?
yeah,
Like,
that's like the that's
that's the
we were
biggest
gonna
thing.
get there. We were gonna get there.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew you were gonna get there. But yes,
I,
that's
dude,
that's
whoa.
a big thing because again, like I told you, like we had two at home already, like before the triplets. But when you're getting them out, like getting them on that schedule is just so key with multiples because the last thing you want is all three of them being on their own schedules because it just makes
Yeah.
life much more challenging. But the
Yeah,
NICU does
that
an
was a
amazing
very
job
nice way
on
of
that.
putting
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah, no, much more challenging is the
Yes.
best way to put that.
Yeah.
Because man, I can't believe I glossed over that because there's just so much to it, but that schedule is the end all be all of it
Yes.
because you know once they're all on that, and the NICU is the reason why they were all on that. Like I'm no shadow of a doubt. Like they fed them at this time, and they were even good enough to work with us to be like, okay, like what time do you usually go to work, or what time do you usually go to bed, and what time, and
Mhm.
like they
To
kind of
help
tailored it
you.
to us,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
because
good. That's good.
my wife and I were, we're restaurant people. We don't wake up at 6 a.m. We're not this, we're not 6 a.m. breakfast at 7 and lunch at 12. We're nap at this. We're like, no, we gotta wake up around 9.
Yeah, yeah.
We start things a little later. We go to bed a little later.
Mhm.
So it was just one of these things where they kind of tailored the boys after us, and it was so I don't want to say it was so easy, but it was definitely more doable
Mhm.
with that, our schedule in mind, where, they had breakfast at 9 a.m. They took a nap at, between like 12 and 1, and then we did lunch at like 2, and then we did dinner at, 6 and 7. So it was like, the way we were feeding them and the way they were eating. And then she breastfed for as long as she could until it just became, impossible for her to keep up with. And
Like, was
you
she
know,
was pumping or did she actually
yeah,
breastfeed?
she was no, she was pumping and
Okay.
she was trying to, be up at two. She had her alarm set to be up at
Oh,
certain
yeah,
times and do it, and
yeah,
it was just like,
yeah.
this is a lot. This is a lot, a lot, a lot, and
It is.
and then we went to like we sourced for a little while, and then that kind of became a thing, and then again,
Mhm.
we're still in this like very like post like very close to COVID, post COVID, where like formula where there was a shortage on that, so like
Oh, yeah, I remember
that
that.
became its own hassle.
Jeez.
Um, and they had like stuff, they had digestive issues, nothing crazy, but there was like a specific formula we had to get for them.
Mhm.
And of course, like like it never was available at the same store twice, and we're driving all around, even out of
Jeez.
state. We'd be in New Hampshire one week, we'd be in Rhode Island the next week,
Wow.
and it's like it was just like this hunt for the formula. Um, but to kind of circle back to softening the blow of having triplets, that again that NICU, it was like, okay, Vincenzo comes home, where he's on this schedule that was set up by the NICU,
Mhm.
and we stuck to it, and we didn't deviate from it like
That's
at
good.
all, and we're not, before the kids, like I wasn't this like regimented schedule person, like I I mean I'm a disciplined enough person, but at the same time, like I wasn't, I'd sleep a little bit later. I'd wake up a little bit early. I was never
Yeah,
like this.
exactly. Yeah,
I didn't have an alarm
yeah,
clock for everything.
yeah.
But now I'm more scheduled than I've ever been, and I don't know how the hell I got here.
Well,
It's
I'll
probably
tell you
because of that.
how. Triplets,
Yeah, yeah,
triplets.
no kidding, right? So, um, so yeah, now Vincenzo comes home, and now it's like, okay, we got that, that taste for parenting, where we're understanding that, like, what our limitations are with a baby with us. We're, including him in as much as we possibly can, and we're taking him back to the NICU to see his brothers as almost every day. We really didn't skip it.
How long did he stay? Sorry, how long did he stay in the NICU?
So he was in, I want to say, like 4 weeks. So
Oh, good. Yeah.
yeah, so he was in there for a while. They almost timed it up to where they would come out at that 32 weeks. So it was
Mm,
like they really made up the difference of,
okay.
the time they would stay. And it's like,
Yeah.
and even the other two would be like, they're good, they're good, they're good, but they didn't hit their car seat test.
Oh,
So it was
yeah.
like that car seat test, like, I don't want to say bought us, a couple of more days, but it was definitely this thing where, like, we're gonna try him today. They didn't make it, so we'd be all amped up to take him home, and then we'd be kind of let down. And then we'd go back. Okay, he was in his car seat. Okay, now Alessio's ready to come home. So now we have two of them. Now we have two. Now we have twins. And I think I posted on my Instagram.
How long did the second one take?
It was about another week or so after.
Okay, so he's just a
Um,
week behind, all right.
Yeah, yeah. So now, and I think I put on my Instagram like, oh, we liked the first one so much we went back and got another. You know what I mean? Like, um, so now we got them both home. And again, we're still at my parents' house, so my mother's helping out a lot. Nap time and all these these moments of like, don't worry, I got them. I'll and honestly, we were blessed. Our kids were not like the best they've ever been was like those first couple of months, those first 6 months. They slept, they ate. They're arguably worse now than they were then. You know what I mean? Like the challenges now, like people say, like, oh, they're gonna be up all night, all that. Like, no, the challenges now are much more scary than the challenges then.
Yeah,
Um, and
that's funny.
And so now we're going back and forth. We did this little, she found this little hack where you get a double stroller and then you get like a very heavy carabiner and you keep one of them in the car seat. So like you have like you almost have like this makeshift triple stroller
Yeah,
as
I think
opposed to having a
okay.
triplet stroller.
Okay.
Um, so then we're in there, we pick them all up. We finally get Steven home. And now this is after like a month after delivery, and we're ready. Like we're good. The schedule at home. We know where we're gonna feed them. We know how we're gonna feed them. We know when they're gonna wake up. We know
Mhm.
when we're gonna go down for a nap. We know when we're gonna get a break. We're
Yeah.
like all these little things that, newborn parents don't get. Like we got to do, and like the waking up at night and the them not sleeping and them being colicky or whatever. And like granted, again, they were great about not being that way, but the little bit that they were, there was like a NICU nurse there to help you with that,
Mhm.
or walk you through the right way to like soothe them, or
Yeah. A lot of
really
good tips. They all have their own little, tricks, you know what I
yeah,
mean? All
yeah,
the nurses
no,
do, yeah.
yeah, and we took those home, and we had like we had that 3 4 week period while they were in the NICU to really learn those and learn how the boys reacted to that and like
Yeah.
learn what really works as opposed to, reading expected what well,
Yeah, it's different. It's different from
yeah,
like reading it online when you're like, "Hey, there's a baby crying," or "I can't get the baby,
yeah,
to sleep through the night," or whatever it may be, right? Like, there's different things that the babies do. It's good to have to see a pro like the NICU nurses do their thing because they're handling babies every day. Like every day, they're handling high risk
yeah.
babies at all different weights. So it's pretty cool because they all have learned a few things, if their experience. It's
Pro is the
nothing
right
beats
word.
firsthand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, soak up all of that. Learn as much as you can from those nurses, stay as long as you can. But with that being said, go home a little bit too, because you can.
Yeah.
Because once they come home with you, that's it. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
again, that's where, you benefit. That's where you get a little bit of a break as opposed to, someone's just having a singleton that's able to bring them home, that has to bring them home 2 or 3 days after because now you're on.
Hmm.
When they were in the NICU, you could kind of, walk outside and take a breath and, know that they're in good hands and
Yes.
kind of
Yeah. Yes.
ask all those questions, you
Peace of
know.
mind. The NICU gives you peace of mind because
And
they're doing their
there's
jobs.
nowhere safer. You
Yeah.
know what
There's
I mean?
nowhere safer.
There's
Exactly.
nowhere safer for a newborn to be other
Yeah.
than, the four walls of the hospital. And, um, and it was just great. And I mean, they even went as far, like, I think my wife is still like Facebook friends with a couple of them, and they cared. They were really great. And I can't thank them enough. And they really put us on the path to do it the right way. And you take as much of it take as much of it from it as you can, because when you have just one, it doesn't go like that. It's usually, who knows what help you got at home, but at
Hmm.
least, with the NICU, you got them, and they it's a valuable experience. It
Yeah.
really is great.
Yeah. Well said, man. Yeah. I think that was like, I think we've shared this before and you'll see it online too, but it's good that parents don't have to go to the NICU. You know what I mean? Like it's obviously a good
Yeah,
sign because then
right.
your
Healthy
baby's
is healthy.
like healthy is healthy. Like that's great. And I do, but and also it's like to let people know that if your baby goes to the NICU, like that's okay. Like they're in the best
Yeah,
hands possible. Like you know
right.
what I mean? Like it's these people are going to take care of them. And like you said earlier, the nurses absolutely care. Like they do such a good job of like caring, and you can tell it's more than just their job. Like they really care about these babies that are in there. And it's just like how your wife's Facebook friends with a few of the nurses. My wife texts still a few of them. She sends them
Yeah,
pictures. You know what I mean? Because they
yeah,
got super attached to the babies. Like like it's how often do they get triplets? They don't get triplets that often.
right.
It's like once a year maybe.
Yeah,
Depending where
and
you're at.
yeah, no, it's and they, they'll tell you too, like, oh, we haven't had multiples or triplets in here, and I can't tell you how long and all that,
Yeah.
and and then you're noticed as the triplet dad, and even now, and they're in preschool. It's like, oh, the triplet dad's here. Get the boys down. So it's like,
Yeah.
you're it's you get labeled pretty quick, and everyone kind of remembers you, and but um it's amazing to see, what that initial structure will do for you and them. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Once you get to a certain age, some of those schedules, you just have to roll with the punches of life.
Yep.
But whatever little structure you can keep, it will, like, goes as far as you make, as far as you take it, as far as you keep it, because it's just like, they're gonna break it at some point. You do have to kind of realign everybody and recalibrate, and once you start figuring out, because they do become individuals at some point with some of these things, which is amazing to me. Like, now that they're four, it's like we do all the same things with them all the time, and yet they're still three totally different people.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see how individualistic they can become, but how the routines and the structure will kind of bring them back in to be, to kind of reel everything in. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, man. Well, Steve, I appreciate you and thanks for doing this so late. I know it's like almost midnight for you and
Yeah,
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 9:30 for me, but I appreciate you doing this, bro. And I think like 27 weeks. I really appreciate you sharing your story because I think people who are having multiples, twins or triplets, it's good and more quads. It's good to know that there's there's more success stories then there's a lot of success stories out there. And 27 weeks it's a scary time to deliver any baby. It's scary, and
Yeah,
let alone three. So I think that this is a good story to share and to experience to share with other people who maybe who may have also delivered at 27 weeks, or who may be like it could be a possibility. But just to
yeah,
know that hey, like this this comes out well. It's
yeah.
not
No,
like
it's doable.
there's a good, it's doable, and that's what I appreciate. So, thank you for doing that, bro. I appreciate you, and um, I know you don't want me to hear this, but opening tip off NBA tip offs this week.
Yeah.
Go Lakers, baby.
Oh no, don't do it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Go Celtics.
Go Celtics. Sorry, hey,
Go Seas.
I'm muting you. I'm gonna mute you on the post so that way no one can hear that. They can just hear you say "Go Lakers."
Oh no. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun, and I definitely appreciate you doing this for Triplet Dads. And if I'm any help to anybody out there, good luck and go get them because it's certainly an undertaking, and it wouldn't give it to people that only give him. He only gives you what you can handle. So if you got him, you can do it.
Well said, man. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Again, you can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube at Triplet Double. You can also email me, Isaiah at Triplet Double, for any questions. If you guys want to get in contact with Steve, reach out. I'd be happy to connect you guys, and I'll put his Instagram in the show notes as well. But thanks again, everyone, for listening. Steve, you're the man, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you, boss. Have a good one.
You too.